The Mets have made some big moves this offseason, one in particular, Juan Soto. Today, we're going to talk about what the rest of the moves the Mets need to make are in order to win the 2025 World Series. The winter meetings are over. There are a lot of moves that have been made, not only by the Mets, by a bunch of other teams. Garrett Crochet's off the market. Max Fried's off the market. There have been some trades going on, and we still have a lot of money to spend as the New York Mets. This roster is not complete. There are still some holes here, and we need to figure out a way to fill them if we want to be a World Series contending team. So we went ahead and just picked out a bunch of names, a bunch of positions. We're going to just kind of go off the top of our head here a little bit and tell you how, why, where the Mets should be spending their money and how they can become a better team. James, first off, how does it feel that Juan Soto is now officially a New York Met? The Mets put it out themselves. The physical's been passed.
Feels incredible. I do love the fact that the Mets fans are still such Mets fans that these 3 days that lapsed between signing him and officially announcing it, passing the physical, some people were actually nervous. Like, again, I caution everybody. First, I implore everybody, then caution them to go into the Mets community on Twitter and just be aware of like the things that are being posted in there. Some people are like, I can't believe they're not announcing it. Oh my God, like what if this falls through? It's like, guys, it's not falling through. $750 million. It's never going to fall through. But it feels great. It feels great every single day this week. Smile on my face, hanging around. It's been raining in New York City for 3 days. I've had a big bright smile just walking around my neighborhood. See Mets stuff everywhere. It feels like it truly, I liken it to winning a playoff series. Like that's how it feels right now to be a Mets fan. Probably not the World Series, but yeah, this feels like winning the DS.
I bought season tickets. I bought tickets to 81 games. It's insane. I'm not going to be able to go to all those games. I bought them, got them.
We're going to do a giveaway.
At one point, we'll do a giveaway. Yeah. We'll see. It's coming out of my pocket here,
I mean, writing off anyway. But so just to like take a look at where the Mets team is right now, where the Mets salary is right now, we're at $248.5 million with Soto. Also, just so insane seeing like the contract breakdown come out on Wednesday, and the fact that the Mets are going to pay Juan Soto $122 million in 2025. It's stupid to look at, but. The last level of luxury tax, like we've said before, is $301 million. And the last couple of seasons, the Mets payroll has been about $330 million. So there's good reason that the Mets have between $55 and $100 million left to spend on the roster this season, depending on how they feel like doing it. And I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know how aggressive they're going to be, to use a term from Brian Cashman. I still don't see the Mets spending like drunken sailors, even though they gave Max Fried 8 years at $30 million per. But the Mets teams, they want to win the World Series 2025. We still definitely need a good pitcher, then we probably need another decent pitcher, and then we definitely need another corner infielder, however you guys want to interpret that one. And then we probably still need one more bat, and then we have to figure out anything in the bullpen. So that's kind of just where I see this roster right now, having its holes, like having its deficiencies, and then we'll figure out how to fill them in a few minutes.
Yeah, and I think we should start off on the pitching side. Let's talk about the good pitchers first. We just saw the best pitcher on the market go to the Boston Red Sox in a trade, and it was quite a haul back. I know you're not necessarily as high on some of the prospects as other people, but Kyle Teal's a top 25 prospect in baseball. Brady Montgomery's a top 50 prospect, and then Chase Meidroth and Wickelman Gonzalez. Meidroth will probably be the starting second baseman for the White Sox, maybe on opening day. He was pretty good in AAA. Wickelman's still a little bit of a way, but that was a lot back. The Mets just simply did not have an offer that was going to be competitive with what the White Sox got there from the Red Sox. And the Mets farm system really couldn't afford to give up that much like the Red Sox farm system could, because they have one of the best there. So we've got to look elsewhere now on the trade market. One of the names that's being thrown around a lot is Luis Castillo, but it's also almost impossible to figure out what a guy like Luis Castillo is worth on the trade market, because it's actually a great contract. Like, he's getting paid $24 million a year for the next 3 or 4 seasons, whatever it is, 3 years. You don't see teams usually trade guys who have a 3.5 ERA, give you 180 innings a year, and make only $24 million, being like, we might be looking to trade him. But for the Mariners, who are just so rich in pitching and need hitting desperately, that $25 million a year could be way more valuable to them on the offensive side, when Luis Castillo in that loaded rotation is more like a 4.
Yeah, it's become just a unique situation, specifically in Seattle, like you said, because right now Luis Castillo, while he's objectively awesome, he's going to go into next season as basically the 4 starter on his own team. And he's going to be the most expensive out of all 5 of the starters in their rotation, where the other 4 of them could easily be almost every other team's in the league, 1, 2, maybe even 3 if you really don't like Brian Wu. So it just makes sense for them to get rid of him. And we know that Jerry DiPoto is a bit of a, he's like Riverboat Jerry in the offseason. He's willing to make any trade, anytime, anywhere. He doesn't really care so much about it. So that's why this keeps coming up and it keeps making sense. And then Wednesday night, we had the first inkling of Luis Castillo rumors, specifically to the Red Sox, which, as some people have projected, Mark and I too, it would be for a hitter, and they had it going for Tristan Casas. And I'll tell you guys right now, that's not going to happen. I think that no matter what you think Castillo's getting back in the trade, I know some people think, like we kind of think it's not going to be a ton because of that contract. It's not going to be a young player who has a super high ceiling and 5 years of control as a power hitter like Tristan Casas. And it's also probably not going to be someone for the Mets like Brett Baty. It probably winds up being someone very in between Casas and Baty. And to get in between Casas and Baty, you probably only have like 75% of players in baseball. So it's still really hard to narrow this down. But the only comp that Mark and I could think of when prepping for this show that could be like a pitcher traded with some money under the belt and some years of control left, not in a rookie deal, is weirdly Sonny Gray. When Sonny Gray was traded, I think 3 years ago now, from the Reds to the Twins. But at that time, Sonny Gray was due 2 years and $21 million and still had not been offered a qualifying contract. So it's kind of 3 years and $40 million. And he got traded for Chase Petty, who was a high-level pitcher who had just been drafted by the Twins, who could throw 100 miles an hour.
Jersey
again, yeah, none of these... He's a Jersey kid?
Yeah, Jersey kid.
I didn't know that. None of these comps are one-to-one, but Luis Castillo is a really unique trade asset in that sense because almost no teams in the league would ever be looking to trade Luis Castillo, basically only besides the one he's currently on.
And that's the one thing that makes me think, like, and agree with you there, where it's like, it's not going to be free, but it's also not Tristan Casas because we know why you were trying to trade him. You want that money. So I'm not going to let you get one of the premier young players right now in Major League Baseball, and a guy like Tristan Casas, who's a really good future player here for the Red Sox. So Castillo's a tough one, and honestly, I really don't know what the Mets can give. I don't know how it really works out. It's just we can give prospects, but I don't know if the Mariners want prospects. It seems like they're looking for Major League ready bats for a guy like Luis Castillo, and ours, like the only one that's young that's Major League ready is Mark Vientos. We're not trading him for Luis Castillo, so I don't know who we do move.
No, I think you can wind up making this move and doing like
Mauricio?
Baty, Mauricio, Baty, Acuna. You know what I mean? Like, I think that kind of makes sense because Baty's kind of like the lottery ticket where they'll give him a chance to play because right now the Mariners infield is miserable.
Bad. Yeah.
It's Luke Raley at first base, who might be kind of one of their better outfielders, but now they have Randy Rosarena and Victor Robles popped off, so they're probably good in the outfield. But besides him, it's going to be JP Crawford, the shortstop, who kind of has one insanity year. And he's a fine fielder. He's a good leader, but like you're okay with him on your team. But then you have right now Dylan Moore slotted in at third base and Ryan Bliss slotted in at second base with Austin Shenton and Leo Rivas as the guys filling out that infield on the bench. So any upgrades to that infield would be significant to that team. And you take the $25 million for Luis Castillo, and suddenly there can be in play for probably guys like Bregman and guys like Gleyber Torres and guys like Pete Alonso, which we don't want to.
Can I interest them in Jeff McNeil?
People keep saying that, and there's no fucking way the Mariners even look at Jeff McNeil. Someone was talking about me on my Twitter today, and I was like, if the Mariners trade Luis Castillo and take in Jeff McNeil suddenly has the third highest salary in that team.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That just can't happen. You just can't let that happen. The only way that happens is if you pay his salary. Then why are you trading Jeff McNeil? You're paying his salary.
Yeah.
Like, I think that there's a trade package there with two, because we have a glut of major league ready infielders. We do right now, and we can't play them all. And I don't think any of them have like superstar potential. I think that you can probably start talking with them between some kind of mix of Acuna, Mauricio, and Brett Baty. And I think you can probably get something done with those guys for Luis Castillo, honestly.
Yeah.
I think they would also welcome that.
I think there's also a world where Luis Castillo doesn't get traded too. I think he might be
that's the most likely world. Yeah,
I was gonna say I think on this list he's one of the guys who I think is unlikely to get traded. We have seen some rumors though about Dylan Cease and Framber Valdez, and they feel very real. They feel like these guys could possibly be on the move. We know the Astros kind of have a little catch-22 here with paying Framber or Kyle Tucker, so it depends, I guess, who ends up getting moved, but one of them will this offseason. And then for Dylan Cease and the Padres, again, this is like the unfortunate thing that happened with Peter Seidler passing away this past year. The Padres put the Seidler family put all their money into the Padres team. They then lost their TV contract. They haven't been really successful over these last few years. Just need to cut back a little bit. And it seems like a guy like Dylan Cease, who's on an expiring contract and most likely will not be coming back to San Diego after this, testing the free agent market, seems like he'd be someone who's on the move. And we actually have comps for a guy like him. So that's a nice part of this.
Yeah, the comps for these two guys as a pitcher who was very good. I think these pitchers probably had more to give than Cease or Framber did when they were at the end of these contracts. But these are all still four very good pitchers. Corbin Burns last offseason being traded with 1 year of control to the Orioles for DL Hall and Joey Ortiz, two major league ready pieces who really contributed to a Brewers playoff run. And then if you guys remember Blake Snell 4 years ago when he was traded for, I think at the time that was, we said it before, was Patino,
Mejia, and then a couple
Francisco Mejia, Luis Patino, who at the time those guys were highly acclaimed prospects. So getting a Cease or getting a Framber would cost a pretty valuable prospect. And I don't know if I would trade a Brandon Sproat for these guys. I definitely would
1
not
year.
actually for 1 year. I mean, you do this under the assumption that you're gonna drop a bag and sign these guys. I'd be very happy with both Framber and Dylan Cease on this team for the next 6-7 seasons.
Oh, of course. Yeah. If they're going to sign an extension, then you make that move. I think you have to move a guy like Sproat if you know that you're going to be able to lock up Framber and Dylan Cease. But I think that's also the unknown that's still around. But also, the Mets have so much money. So who knows?
Also, the Mets have so much money, and they don't really seem like they want to give out long-term pitcher contracts. So would you even trade Jet Williams to get 1 year, possibly no more of either of these guys? Because again, like if you think there's a chance that Dylan Cease or Framber Valdez is the missing piece for this becoming a legit World Series contending team. And you know what? We can throw Zach Gallen in this mix too, because there are some trade rumors with Zach Gallen. He's also free agent at the end of the year. He's also been a high-level pitcher. I don't think his ceiling has been as high as these guys, but I think his floor has actually been higher than both of them at times, which is a weird thing to say. But these are all three high-level pitchers you expect to be in contention for an all-star team. And they're all available right now. Do you trade a guy like Jet Williams, who's consensus the Mets' number 2 prospect behind Brandon Sproat, to get one of these guys?
I mean, it's tough. I almost like need to know what the rest of the team looks like before I decide if we're going to trade that. Like, I need to know who the other starting pitcher is that's going to join this rotation that we still need. I need to know who the other corner infielder is going to be. Like, I think you almost can't make a big move for one of these guys, moving one of those prospects without doing that yet. I don't know.
No, I'll tell you this. I think it's actually the exact opposite. I think you have to get one of these guys in first because, like I said before, you're probably going to spend max $100 million on this roster, minimum $55 million on this roster. So I think if you get in a pitcher whose 2025 cost is below market value, then that allows you to be able to make more interesting decisions elsewhere. I think that comes first. I think that's why the Mets were so aggressive on Garrett Crochet on Wednesday. And apparently the Mets were having conversation with the White Sox until they pulled the trigger on the deal with the Red Sox. We just didn't have the pieces to match. And Jerry Reinsdorf hates the Mets because Fred Wilpon used to call him poor when he first bought the White Sox. He has a quote one time that I read in Lords of the Realm that said, I have more money in my pocket for lunch than Jerry Reinsdorf has, which is hilarious. And then also Jerry Reinsdorf was the owner who was rallying hard against Steve Cohen buying the Mets. So it seems like it's a real shame for Mets fans, but if we're ever going to try and make a move with the White Sox, who are one of the dumber organizations in baseball, they're going to hold our feet to the fire. So that's just some bad luck. That's the price you pay for having Steve Cohen and getting Juan Soto. But you're so aggressive for a guy like that because you could possibly get one of the better pitchers in the league for $7 million, well below market value. Yeah. That's why you do this first, and then you can figure out the budget as it branches off from there.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. We're in such a weird spot. We're in a very, very weird spot right now with this Mets roster because it's like, man,
incomplete.
Like it's incomplete, but we know like the pieces are available and gettable, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, here we are.
It's got to be like right now, David Stearns, like sitting in the war room with the trusted analyst and the trusted assistant. They have to be literally having these conversations 21 hours a day that we're having for these few hours that we have in a day and nonstop. But they're talking about more interesting things too, like actually less interesting things like the money and the arbitration and where this leaves your international like fucking signing pool. Because we're not even talking about a guy like Roki Sasaki in this list. No. We're gonna let that come as it comes. Maybe the Mets are in, maybe they're not. If they get to the second round, then we'll start to take it seriously. But we're gonna wait until probably after the holidays to take the Roki Sasaki talk seriously. So then it comes back again, these guys on the trade board.
Yeah, and then like some other names that I don't know people are throwing around, and it's like really like this isn't happening, guys. Like I know now we signed Juan Soto. The Mets can do anything. Like I know we like to have that fun here, but like Pablo Lopez, why would the Twins trade him right now? There's really no reason.
They just seem to be aggressively trying to cut payroll.
But also
they also lost their
win.
TV deal. I don't know. I think they want to stay in the middle. I think that's what they want to do. I think they want to get the $20-30 million off their payroll and see if they can still win 83 games and compete for a wild card spot. I think that's their goal.
Jared Jones and Mitch Keller are their names, and I'm like, I don't think the Pirates are trading either of those guys.
I think Keller's realistic. Like I think Keller would be like, I know. I think they paid him, but I think also if they're like, we can get some controllable assets for Mitch Keller, I think that's you make that trade. Like the fact that it's come up, I think that's something. That's someone saying they're willing to do it. And the Pirates are so willing to do this. The Pirates do not care. The Pirates don't hold anything sacred. They'll trade Paul Skeens in 3 years. They don't care about anything.
I think at $15 million a year, they're not going to be moving him this year. I think when you get closer to his 30-year-old season, 31, when he's up to close to 20. But there is no incentive to move him right now. I don't.
No, unless you give him something good.
And like, I don't think the Pirates are as stupid as they once were. So like, this isn't like pulling the.
I think some Pirates fans would disagree with that.
Yeah, but it's because they also, like, they have the right to be mad. They totally have the right to be mad, but, like, they have been doing better things over the last few years, no doubt, besides not paying Rowdy Tellez.
And paying IKF. That was a big mistake as well. But I just can't see. Even if you wanted to trade for Jared Jones, like, let's just say, pipe dream, that starts with Mark Vientos, and then you have to go push the chips even further from there. You probably have to give up Vientos and Sproat to get Jones.
Which
and like
I'm
Sproat,
okay.
yeah, Sproat could be Jones next year, maybe. Like if everything goes perfectly. I'm not saying he will be, but if everything goes perfectly, that's possible. I don't think those guys are realistic. But I think if we're looking at a realistic trade candidate for the Mets, it comes back to Cease, Framber, and Gallen. But then two of those guys in your league, and I'm sure everyone's mad at the Mets. I don't know if the Padres are going to give the Mets Dylan Cease.
And all these teams are also like playoff teams. Like are they really gonna move these guys? I don't know. Is this just winter meetings were so much fun? Let's see if we can take calls on anybody and see what you got. Juan Soto just signed for $760 million. You could get paid $800 million at some point. Like maybe people were just like, fuck it, winter meetings, let's have some fun.
No, totally. But then it comes back to the pitchers available on the free agent market. And we saw, again, Max Fried get an 8-year contract. So that makes me think that Corbin Burns is going to get 10. I'm totally out on that. I don't even want to consider that. I was talking wild about it the other day, but I don't know. I just think the fact that the Mets aren't even remotely linked to Corbin Burns probably says that there's no way we get him. Probably also says bad things about Corbin Burns. The fact that he's such an obvious shoehorn fit for the Mets and they're not even looking in his direction. It doesn't even seem like David Stearns was spitting his feet. Like there's no way that he's going to be a Met. So I just keep getting back to the trade board because then after these guys, we get into this like weird tweener tier of pitchers who are like, everyone's like the Mets need a frontline guy, Mets need a frontline guy. Like we just know the frontline guys that might be available and they're probably not even available. Then you get to the rest of free agent pitchers and some other not frontline dudes, but you're going to have to pay significant money. And the names that are blinking and stick out to me over and over again are Sean Manaea, Jack Flaherty, and Walker Buehler.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of them really, for what they're going to want money-wise and how good they can actually be as pitchers, really fit the bill for what the Mets want or need.
I think we would feel a lot better with those guys being a part of this team, like in the role that they would be, if we saw Cody Bellinger pitch well last year. If we saw him pitch at all. Like I think we'd feel a lot better. But the fact that he basically hasn't pitched in a year, and the few innings that we did see were bad. So it's like, it's not that we have lack of faith in Cody Bellinger. It's just like, it's a year off. Like this is a very difficult sport when you're sharp. If we saw him do that, I think you'd be way more comfortable with not even considering the trade market as heavily and being like, let's just bring Manaea back or let's bring in Jack Flaherty, Walker Buehler. But because we still lack that stopper in this rotation, do you want to give 4 for 88, 4 for 92 to one of these guys or 4 for 100? Like, I don't know.
But it's not even that. I think that's where Manaea's market will wind up. And I do think that there's so much familiarity, but it's almost like there's almost too much smoke with Manaea to the Mets. Because it doesn't seem like that's something that David Stearns would do. I don't know. I don't see David Stearns being like, here's the 33-year-old who has like a weird funky arm slot. It was like one way of attacking every hitter. He's a lefty, that is true. But like Flaherty seems like the way, again, the Fried contract is making it feel. He might get 6 years.
Which I don't want to touch him with your anything.
I don't even want to be in the same area code as Jack Flaherty for a 6-year contract. And then also Walker Buehler is still the one that makes no sense in my brain. I don't know how many years. I don't know how much money. I don't know how good he is. I don't know how bad he is. I don't know anything's going to happen with Walker Buehler next 3 months. Nothing. I have no bearing on this. It's the most blind I feel. It's like the most blind I feel like I've ever been. A Major League Baseball starting pitching free agent. There's no clue. And then the other guy in this tier, who you guys are going to hate me for, is Nick Pivetta. Because the Mets apparently have taken a meeting. I think they've taken a meeting with Nick Pivetta, but the problem with Pivetta is that he has the qualifying offer attached to him. So you're going to have to give up more draft picks. You just lost draft picks for Soto. Doesn't matter. Don't care at all. I'll lose every single one for Soto. But then losing them for Pivetta, it's like, damn. But then you get some back for Severino and Manaea. Yeah. So you lose a 3rd round pick, you get back a 4th round pick. It's like, is that worth it if you can give Nick Pivetta less years and less money than Sean Manaea?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know.
Pitching market's so bizarre. We were even trying to like figure out who could be like the next Chris Sale, because that's of course like a hot name on the market too. It was like Chris Sale was dead in the water. I know James was not necessarily. I had to convince you that he was dead off air.
Well, because again, I was playing fantasy baseball drafts last year, and I was taking my Chris Sales in the 10th and the 8th rounds. I was like, I saw a guy with 30% strikeout rate who was one of the best pitchers in baseball 3 years ago. Like, that's worth the risk.
It's fantasy, it's fantasy, Larry. You
theory.
Included that game fantasy in front of it. That's all we had to know.
Well, but you do game theory. It's a competition. You try to get the edge on the opponents. That's how you do that. It's also how Major League Baseball works. That's how the Braves made the fucking playoffs last year with this guy.
Yeah, and then he didn't pitch. But he might be dead now. Who knows? We haven't seen him pitch in a while. But like, we looked at some of the older gentlemen that are on the pitching market that maybe have a couple years left or whatever that have been injured. There's not many. It's like Yu Darvish and Brandon Woodruff, and I don't think the Brewers are going to trade us Brandon Woodruff. I feel like there might be some bad blood there. Darvish. I think Darvish could be a guy, but also like, man, he's really not been healthy at all.
And expensive.
Yeah. So it's like,
I'm pulling up his contract right now. Darvish is quite cheap. Darvish is owed $21 million next year, 16 the year after that, and 2 years at 15. So Darvish is owed 4 years and $67 million. That's an
how
incredible
old
deal.
is he?
He is 38. He signed until he's 41.
What are these contracts the Padres were signing? Oh my God.
But they don't care. And Darvish is the kind of guy that like I'm really comfortable how he's going to age because he has 19 pitches. Like I'm like I don't think Darvish will ever be bad. I think sometimes Darvish will just get hurt, but there's no way he's bad. Like I wonder why there's no smoke around him when there's so much more smoke about Cease. Like
does he maybe have a no trade clause and he's just like, I'm staying?
Yeah, maybe. Let's see. Even Darvish velocity last year kind of fell a little bit. He had the situation with his brother too. He spent a lot of the year in Japan. But he like in terms of trying to find a guy that's full no trade clause. Yeah, all right, it's not going to happen. Okay. There it is. All right, that's why he's not being mentioned. But it's just trying to find guys that are dead. And there's two guys who might be dead.
Don't you say those names.
There's two guys that might be dead. You're going to probably get really cheaply, and they might be able to give you like 150 innings with some upside.
I'm going to throw up.
The two guys' names are, stop me if you've heard these before, Mets fans. Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer.
Everyone just clicked off. Everybody just clicked off. You know what? I'll give you another one. Jacob deGrom. You want a guy
the Mets aren't signing any of these fucking guys. There's no chance. There's no chance. It was just we're trying to find like the Chris Sale archetype, guys that could be dead that we can bring back to life. Sadly, that just doesn't happen every year.
No.
Might not happen again.
Guys have a really difficult time throwing like 110 innings over a 4-year stretch. That doesn't normally happen, and then you come back and win the Cy Young.
No, so then we get back into the same bucket of bullshit free agent pitchers we've been talking about for the last few months here. And it's guys like Spencer Turnbull, who try to squeeze out 130 innings of good stuff. It's guys like Cal Quantrill, you put in the back of the rotation.
Quintana.
But as I'm saying, now we're getting further and further away from the idea of like how the Mets can win this World Series. Because at the end of the day, if they want to pony up and like start this window where you have Soto and Lindor in their primes, you probably do have to push some chips in, some prospect chips, and make a trade for one of these top line guys.
And I will say this. As great as it would be to have a World Series roster perfect going into the year, trade deadline also gets crazy every single year. There's always some guys that end up being moved. So just because the Mets maybe don't have the ace on opening day doesn't mean that during the middle of the season, by the trade deadline, whatever it is, the Mets can't improve. Teams do this every single year. You go out and make trades. So just because there might not be the perfect fit right now does not mean it's the end of the world by any means for this 2025 season.
Totally. And a couple guys on this list, namely Dylan Cease, Framber Valdez, Zach Gallen, and even slightly Pablo Lopez, there's a good chance that their teams are not doing as well as they expected in the middle of July. And they pivot and they make the trade and they try to start their rebuilds, especially guys like Cease, Framber, and Gallen, who will be free agents in 2026.
Yeah. And I mean, there's just other guys too, like the Marlins at some point will be super bad trying to trade off some guys.
Well, I think the Marlins are an interesting one because a lot of people have been throwing out the name Jesus Luzardo. I don't think the Marlins will trade Luzardo now, but I think there's going to be a cushiony spot for Luzardo these next few months to rebuild his value. And I think that was in the Marlins jump and they trade him. And he's someone that will make sense too in a few months possibly. But I think that, again, that's a good point you made. Mets can definitely, they have the prospect capital. We can get an ace midseason. Just because we don't go into the season one isn't horrible. I'd like to go into the season one.
It
would make opening day a lot more fun if Dylan Cease is on the mound and Juan Soto's hitting second. But I think there's probably a way. But the main point we're trying to make here is that the current pitching market doesn't give the Mets a very obvious answer to fill the top of the rotation. So we might have to be a little bit easy with our expectations heading into the season.
Joe from Massapequa was going to be frustrated for a little bit longer.
Pissed.
He's going to be so upset.
The entire island of Staten is going to be outraged.
Now, to switch gears here a little bit, let's talk about some offense here. Corner infield. You're either getting a first baseman or you're getting a third baseman. The Mets need one of them. You're either moving Vientos to first, you're keeping him at third, you're getting a first baseman. It looks like the Yankees are going to get Christian Walker, and personally,
some cold water's been thrown on that in the last couple hours.
What happened?
Apparently talk dissipated. They were expecting to leave the meetings with a deal, and now they've left without one.
Interesting. Okay. That's a little bit of a twist. But Pete Alonso's the name that I think everybody on the Mets wants. I want Pete Alonso back. We heard from John Heyman, and Paston, I think, went on a podcast on Baseball Tonight. They were talking about Alonso's market, and they were like, yeah, it's non-existent. Like, people aren't calling Pete Alonso. He was posted on his Instagram story the other night drinking chlorophyll water, and I looked what it is, and it's very much pushed by Gwyneth Paltrow, so you know it can't be any good. And I was like, Pete, come on, man. Like, you're getting that bored. You're pushing green water? That's insane.
No, but I think that's kind of the best case scenario for the Mets, to be able to play the way the game of Pete Alonso.
Amazing that no one's calling his phone because, again, being around Pete even for a second, you know exactly what kind of person he is, and you know he's freaking out every single day. He's having a horrible time, and I feel bad for him, but it's going to be great when we get him.
I mean, again, or then you just do a pivot somewhere else. But, like, what is the actual pivot if we want to, like, let's say, is there a possible way to improve on Pete Alonso? Because, like we said before, this team is a little bit clunky and slow with Pete Alonso and Juan Soto on it. Not that it's a bad thing. So those two guys are going combined for 75 home runs. So that's great. I don't give a fuck about clunky and slow. But is there a way? Because we're not really connected to Alex Bregman at all. Some cold water's been thrown at Nolan Arenado, even though he put us on his list of preferred teams.
Yes, one of the 6.
Shout out that we're a preferred team right now.
He said he wants to win and also has the Angels on that list.
There you go. So there's that. Well, if I can't win, I'd like to live in Orange County, California. But the one name I'm going to throw out there, another disgusting name, another blast from the past, talking about the Twins cutting payroll. I wonder what's going on with Carlos Correa.
I think he's definitely on the block. I think way more than Pablo Lopez. And it's because he's getting paid $33 million a year for like the next 7. Like he's getting the bag. And I'm sure the Twins, if there's any contract, they're like, the guy who plays 110 games a year, we'd love to wash our hands of this. Why did we do this?
Again, and I don't know if there's a weird situation between him and the Mets, but Carlos Correa had a major front-loaded contract. He's making $37 million this year, $33 next year, $32 the year after that, $31 the year after that, and then 4 vesting options that are 25, 20, 15, and 10. And those options vest with unbelievable clauses. It's 575 plate appearances or a top 5 of the MVP or a World Series MVP. And then it's 550 plate appearances with another top 5 of the MVP or a World Series or LCS MVP. And it kind of goes down like that. Slightly fewer plate appearances for those seasons, the option. But basically, you only have to pay Carlos Correa premium money for his age 30, 31, 32, and 33 seasons. Where, of course, that's kind of the back end of a guy's prime. But based on what Carlos Correa did last year, still an incredibly good player who would be the best defensive third baseman in baseball, probably the second, top 3 defensive third baseman in baseball second happens. And there's no rumors of this. There's no link to this. I'm sure it might be weird because of what happened with him in the Mets the first time. But if there's any way to improve the corner infield and not get Pete Alonso, I think he's probably the big blinking light to circle, the only one to do it.
I've got an interesting take for you. And I said this last offseason. I still felt it to my bones that they should have gone harder after this guy. What about Cody Bellinger? The Cubs want to get rid of him immediately. They're trying anyway to get rid of that contract. They don't want to pay him. I know we're talking about corner infield. He can play first base completely fine. Probably more valuable for us in center field, truthfully.
Significantly.
But could that be an option? Like the Cubs want to get rid of him so badly. They have no interest in keeping Cody Bellinger around.
So Cody Bellinger, now you have a 2-year, $52.5 million deal. And again, if I'm going to pay a first baseman $26 million annually, I think Pete Alonso gives more to the team than Cody Bellinger. Cody Bellinger has the value.
Contract, though?
I don't know, but Cody Bellinger has the value of how many years is Pete really going to get now? 5 maximum?
But then here's the other thing. You're going to say Cody Bellinger has the value of also being able to play center field. Okay, so then
that's good. Maybe that's part of it though. Then you get next year Cody Bellinger
and let Beatty and Mauricio fight it out for third base. We know we talked about all those young guys. Like maybe that's the easy way that you figure out how to not only get the young guys playing time that are pretty good prospects, as well as getting some actual value by getting Vientos off third base, improving defense there, and having a great defensive center fielder in Bellinger.
Yeah, but yeah, that is probably where that value comes from.
And
but then if you're going to do that,
Siri too.
If you're going to do that, you probably still need another actual corner infielder.
Yeah, but that's where you could have some ridiculous
and
fun though.
And DH just rotates around a little bit.
Yeah, and that's where you could have some fun where it's okay, you need another corner infielder, right? I don't know. You knock on Carlos Santana's door, see what he's up to.
Yeah,
you want to see what he's doing? Do you want to see if you move over to third base, there's no one there. I don't know. I'm not looking at third base actually, but in first base, Carlos Santana, Josh Bell. Those are some of the guys that, again, not exciting by any means. Carlos Santana more so. But if you're going to get a guy like Cody Bellinger, I think this allows for this to make a little bit more sense.
Yeah, it does. But again, that only works out for Bellinger if you're you're going to be the center fielder. I think if you're paying Cody Bellinger that money, him playing first base is kind of silly. And again, also, but the platooning could work there, especially as a lefty. He can play every single day against righties.
Yeah,
and just it depends on who else is hot, who else is cold. He can play first base from the 7th inning on when Jose Siri comes in the game.
Yeah, he doesn't have to
he is
come
definitely
out.
A weapon. I don't know. That probably is interesting. We haven't been linked at all, though. It keeps being the Yankees.
I know, but I was all over him last offseason. I was I think this is such an obvious, and it was more so again to play center field, but also Pete insurance. I was why would we not do this?
Yeah,
make Pete Alonso sweat more.
I don't even hate both of them. I don't know.
We got all this money. Why not?
The bet. Again, we said at the top of the show, the Mets are going to spend minimum $55 million more probably this offseason, and the maximum could be stupid. It should be depending on how this shit winds up working out. I think there's a reason because I think the next thing the Mets need, no matter who else gets a corner infielder, I think they still need another bat because you probably do need a guy who can be around the infield a little bit.
I got one for you.
Who?
Oh my God, Jose Iglesias, bring him
That
back.
doesn't
There it
that
is.
doesn't count. I'm talking about someone who can actually hit and who can actually be
You
on the
watch
field
your
of the World
mouth.
Series. I'm just saying, Tom, like, let's say you add Pete back to this team. That's just the easiest
Okay.
thing to do. Pete's at first, Vientos at third, then your bench going, and then McNeil's at second. Your bench on opening day is Luis Torrens, Luis Angel Acuna, Ronnie Mauricio, Tyrone Taylor.
Yeah, I think I'm fine with that.
I think you need another bat. They're starting Marte's your DH. F. McNeil's your second baseman. You want to win a World Series? I think you need one more actual bat. And you
But who is that,
you only let one of the young guys open the season on the team. Then when there's an injury or something goes wrong, then the next guy comes up. But you kind of want one spot to fight for Beatty, for Acuna, for Mauricio.
So then what does this extra bat have to do defensively as well? Or is it just simply you're going to be an extra DH, you're going to pinch hit and do that kind of thing?
That's a question too. Do you think this team is better with someone who can play better defense or better offense? I think it's probably going to be offense. Yeah, for sure. I think you need a bat, like a legit hitter.
Are you looking at like just take a shot on some guys? Like, are you like, is Eloy Jimenez alive? Can he do anything ever again? Like,
I mean, like, do you get like a thumper who can just again murder righties like Jock Peterson every single day? Like someone, but like then we get the same situation as JD Martinez last year, where it does feel like the roster tightens up a little bit when you get someone who's DH only. Like as far as a guy that can play the field and you don't want to die, like, do you call Jurickson Profar to do some weird shit? Like I don't like that much at all.
No, he's almost better if he's playing more. Like I don't want him to be like not playing. I feel like we saw last year when he plays every day, he did a pretty good job. So it almost feel like just extra. And I think teams are going to pay him to play every day too. I don't think he's going to take to sit on the bench for the Mets.
No, I mean, I think the Mets have a team right now where someone would like to be a 400 plate appearance guy for the Mets at this point.
Everybody's begging us to say Jesse Winker. I know that. Just
doesn't seem
like that's going to happen.
Jesse Winker, he's possible, but he just seems a little bit extraneous with Juan Soto, which is
we know Tommy Pham's not coming back, so that's
no, he's definitely not coming back.
Mark Hanna.
So it probably does make sense to dip back in the trade pool for this. Like the guy who I would love the Mets to be connected with is Josh Naylor of the Guardians.
Yeah, but that's just.
We've heard them say multiple times that he is available. He's due $14 million this year, his last year before free agency.
I guess.
He's a first baseman who could also, you're very happy when he DHs. He's got some shit to him. He makes a ton of contact. He has great power. I think he's someone that would really ingratiate themselves in the Mets fan quickly with all the fire he plays with. Like there are options like that out there as well.
I'm looking around at some of the other positions. I mean,
because the free agent hitter list is bad right now. It's bad.
Yeah, it's super bad. No, it's Santander. Like it's guys we're not going after because we got the guy. We got the number one dude, so you can't really worry about the other ones. And Pete, I'm looking at the free agents that are coming up here. It's an interesting group of guys where no one really stands out as like this kind of role. The other name I like throwing out too, and I threw this out to you the other night, is Yandy maybe at first base if the Rays would look to move him.
Yeah, it's possible.
And
I think that's someone where I don't know how much they want for him, but like
he's also 35.
People keep asking us to talk about trading for Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
It's not happening.
There's no way. He's so good.
Yeah.
Like he's going to get like $450 million next season in the open market.
Truthfully, I would rather just be in on the free agent market with him than trade for him right now. I think like what we'd have to give up for a guy like Vlad Jr. to the Blue Jays, we give up a ton.
For 1 year, yeah.
For 1 year, when realistically, like if we want Vlad, we'll just get him next year, which is so ignorant, but I love it.
And people keep being like, just sign him and like trade for him time to an extension. Do you guys just see what happened with Juan Soto?
Yeah.
No one is going to sign extensions anymore.
Hell no.
Bobby Witt Jr. is going to murder his agent for that contract that he signed.
He's got $300 million, but he's going to be all right.
That agent should never walk the streets again for what he did to Bobby Witt Jr. Like truthfully, like it's just not. It's like no one's going to not test the market again after Juan Soto just showed you what testing the market is like.
Kyle Tucker just missed like 90 games last year. He's like, I'm hitting free agency.
Probably get $500 million. Like who's up? Some other guys who could possibly like contracts up next year. Trevor Story, he's not opting out of his deal, even though he's a free agent next year.
Kyle Schwarber, but he's not going to trade to the Mets.
Swing a deal with Kyle Schwarber, that'd be crazy. No, I think Naylor's the one that sticks out the most from next year's free agent crop. Totally.
I mean, you also have, and I'm going to say this as the last like crazy pipe dream. Even though this goes against Jerry Reinsdorf for not wanting to trade with the Mets.
Robert.
What's going on with Luis Robert? What's happening there? One. We got to kick the tires at least.
I mean, his contract escalates from $8 million to $20 million next year. And
cool. Deal.
Yeah, that'd be great. Still a deal. I just don't know what – I don't know. Jerry Reinsdorf hates the Mets organization for 2 generations of ownership.
I think would you rather have Luis Robert in center field or Pete Alonso at first base?
Luis Robert in center field.
Yeah, it's a tough one though, right? Like I
think about that, yeah.
Because Robert has the unbelievable ceiling of if it ever clicks for him, he'll just be one of the 10 best players in baseball.
Also, could not Could easily not.
Oh, he
off,
might.
Off injured, bad attitude, could wind up very bad.
He could wind up being Edward Olivares. Like that could be the player he ends up being. But
we got Edward Olivares. Mission accomplished.
Exactly. So it's like there's some scary stuff there with him. But you'd take Robert over Pete Alonso for the next 5 years on the Mets.
Yeah, I mean, Robert's. I was also wrong about the payroll before. His luxury tax penalty this year is $8 million. He's being paid $15 million. So Robert has a 3-year contract for $55 million.
It's free.
That's amazing. And you're getting that's his age 27, 28, and 29 seasons.
It's interesting. Mets have so many things to do. It's crazy.
So many things. That's what I'm saying. Every 21 hours a day, David Stearns has to be in the room. Just oh my God. Also, another guy I've seen people some people on Mets Twitter say, I got MJD analysis said that this would be a good fit. Willie Castro, just someone who could play everywhere. Yeah. The Mets getting a glue guy for this last guy, I think would be great, which is again why Jose Iglesias probably does make sense. But also that is Mauricio and that is Acuna. Those guys were developed as glue guys. And David Stearns specifically talked about Brett Beatty's newfound positional flexibility the other day to do that. But I can't see him being Ben Zobrist. I mean, maybe he'll be Ben Zobrist. Maybe that's how it happens. Brandon Lau's another one we've talked about before. He can play he can play some positions poorly. So, but that's still
fine.
Yeah, fine. Corner outfield, not so good, but he's playing against another lefty bat. It's just they have to get more. The whole point of this episode is that we need more bodies.
Yes,
the Mets are lacking. We haven't even talked about the bullpen.
Well, we actually have a ton of bodies, but it's just no one that you're There's a lot of non-guarantees on this team right now. We have a lot of bodies. It's just what is Brett Beatty? What is Ron Mauricio? What's Acuna? What's McNeil? What's Starling Marte? There are question marks around those guys without a doubt. A little question mark around some of the guys even that they do have in general. Alvarez had an up and down year last year.
I mean, him as the catcher though was comfortable, but there is just for this team having Juan Soto and Francisco Lindor on it. At the bottom of the roster is still not very good, and I'm sure if you're on Twitter, you've seen every single Yankee fan saying that. So we all know that as Mets fans. But there's simply a lot of work to do, and then just to talk about relievers for a second, it's the same guys we've been talking about: the Danny Collins, the Hobie Milners, the Jose Leclercs. It's just gonna be
Brooks Raley.
Peppering that tier, just getting as many of these kind of weird looking relievers you can, seeing who you can get a lot out of. Jonathan Loaizaga was signed, Yimi Garcia was signed. Those are two of my favorite targets. They're both off the board. Same with Jordan Romano, who embarrassing for the Blue Jays that they got rid of Jordan Romano and he signed for basically the same money from the Phillies.
Yeah,
it's insane.
It's insane.
It's horrible.
Yeah,
Jacob Webb's off the board too. He was a very interesting name. I wonder if the Mets wind up with Ryan Yarbrough's a weird bulk guy who can just be in the middle, be this year's Adrian Hauser.
Probably.
Yeah. Kittredge, I don't know. It's the same names over and over again. This reliever market feels stagnant, so it's hard to talk about yet.
In Kendall Graveman.
Yeah, I mean, bring back Fujinami. I don't know. David Stearns is going to sign 1 year pillow deals for relievers. That's just what it's going to be. That's it.
Drew Smith is still out there.
Ray Kerr back to the Braves. Damn it.
There it is.
Happened over Thanksgiving. Damn.
It's heartbreaking.
Horrible.
Bring back Jacob Barnes.
Yeah, don't do that. No, but I'm saying it's hard to even talk about the reliever market yet because it has barely materialized.
Yeah, and the ones that did move,
Clay Holmes, he's a starter now.
Yeah, we got him. We got Clay Holmes, and the other ones I was I didn't really care about any of the other ones in particular. Loaizaga going to the Yankees, I would have taken Loaizaga, but
yeah, shout out Mike Deportes, 3 years, $27 million. I think if it ended up being 1 for 3.
That guy has missed all off season. I mean, he couldn't be more wrong.
It's a shame, but that's it. I really like that deal, but it's not going to happen.
I think that's it. Right? Anything else?
I think that's it. I mean, basically, what was the episode? How the Mets go in the World Series? It'll be difficult.
And they're they're getting a lot. You know what the Mets are going to need a lot of things? David Stearns, and things are just going to have to go right. You're going to have to play well. To be fair, I feel better about this team this year than I did last year.
No fucking shit. 100%.
And they had a great season last year. So I'm not going to pretend I'm not going to be screaming from the rooftops we're in the World Series. I think we're just excited that Juan Soto's here. And now we figure out the puzzle pieces around him to hopefully get us a World Series championship.
And the bottom line is you might not see these moves coming. It's going to take a lot of creativity for David Stearns to put a real World Series contending team on the field.
But that's why we have him, because he's the best at this.
And we have 4 months. We're good. We're fine. We're ready to do this. The winter meetings just happened. I feel like Juan Soto happened. Everything got everything sucked in to focus a little bit more. But now the real work actually starts.
It's literally not even 2025. The year that the season happens and hasn't even come yet.
December 12th. This is earlier last offseason. The Yankees got Juan Soto.
Yeah, literally. There's a lot of time left, guys. A lot of time.
I saw a funny thing on Twitter that when Max Fried's contract with the Yankees is up, Juan Soto will be 1 year older than Aaron Judge is right now.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. Oh, my God.
Double check Judge's age.
Just over halfway through his contract with the Mets.
Yeah. Yeah, Judge is 32. He's going to be 33 soon. So, yeah. And so those 26.
Yeah, God, he's so cool.
Yeah.
He's so awesome.
So
He's
cool.
on the
So
Mets.
great.
We did it.
Monto's on the Mets.
Guys.
But yeah, a lot of work to do. David Stearns.
Yeah, a lot of work. We'll keep updating you as we go. Make sure you are following us on all our social media at Mets'd on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Subscribe to the Mets'd Podcast YouTube channel if you have not yet done so. And if you're listening to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, drop us a rating, drop us a review, download, and subscribe. You can follow James on Twitter at
James_Shiano.
I'm Giraffe Neck Mark with the C. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And let's go Mets. See you guys.
See you guys next time. Let's go Mets.